And we are live. Greetings, everyone watching live on YouTube and everyone watching after the fact. Shout out to the faithful and salute to the patrons. Once again, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all my review of the 2019 American psychological thriller, Joker. All right, this is going to be a fun review. And I get the sense that the comment section, well, I don't know if people going to like me for this one. I'll be honest with you all. But before I jump into this review, I want to go ahead and give a special shout out to OAW Patron, Kelly Madden. This was their request for this month, and it just so happens, I think I got the message the day before I was planning on seeing it. It's like, oh man, all right, yeah, Joker is already on my queue. So yeah, let's go, let's do it. So once again, shout out to them. And just a reminder to everybody, if you have a film, TV series, anime, anything like that you would like to request for a review, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/OAW to submit your requests. All right, so now, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into Joker. All right, so as I mentioned before, Joker, this is the 2019 American psychological thriller that was co-written and directed by Todd Phillips of The Hangover fame. And of course, it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro, just to name a few. Some really great character actors in this film. Just released this past Thursday. For the most part, most of the reviews are already out, so people kind of get a gist of what they're getting themselves into. And of course, I think it's already grossed over last I checked, I think it was like 244 million worldwide. So it had a pretty successful opening box office. But for those of you all who have yet to see the film, as I have always done by and large, first portion of this review will be non-spoiler. And for those of you all who have seen it, stick around because I'm going to get into a few things in my spoiler portion. I will also have visual cues on the video in the event that you want to go ahead and just jump straight ahead to the spoiler portion. Watching this after the fact, I'll have you guys covered there. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump into this review. So first and foremost, a synopsis of what this film is. Now, let me go ahead and just let you guys know it is loosely inspired by the DC Comics character of the same name, because this thing is sort of, a standalone, almost like an Elseworld type story. It is not connected to any type of continuity that we have seen regarding the DCEU. It's not even connected to any type of continuity done to any other DC Comics or Batman adaptation that we have been given in the past. Not connected to any of the television series. It's not connected to any of the comics. This is a standalone. It's its own thing. It's its own thing, okay? Might as well consider it an alternate universe, because that's essentially what it is, okay? So that's why I say it's very loosely inspired by the DC Comics character of the same name. And I say loosely inspired because the only thing that they really take from the comics is Gotham City and a couple of names of the characters. And that's about it. Hell, Martha Wayne is a blonde in this movie. And we all know, historically speaking, she's always been a brunette. So that's why I said loosely inspired. So this film, like I said, loosely inspired on the DC Comics character. And essentially what it does is it tells the story of a man named Arthur Fleck, who is a mentally ill individual, recently released from some type of mental health facility. He is going to state-funded therapy sessions. He is on his medication. And essentially he's just living his life day by day, living with his mother, taking care of her, somewhat elderly, somewhat mentally ill as well, mother taking care of her. During the day, he is a party clown for hire. And at night, he inspires to be a stand-up comedian. Essentially, that's Arthur's life. And from the start of the movie all the way until the third act, he is constantly shat upon throughout this entire movie. Most of the time, for reasons other than people just find him weird. They find him weird. They think he's a creeper. There is nothing that he himself necessarily does to bring about the animosity that is constantly descended upon him throughout the entire film. People just shit on this dude the whole movie. This movie is 2 hours and 2 minutes. And I would say for the greater part of an hour and 45 minutes, people just shit on him for no reason. Other than that, they just find him weird. For no reason. For no reason. So essentially, throughout the course of the film, Arthur has to deal with this until he finds himself in a position where he actually has to physically defend himself. And when that happens, that sort of gets the ball rolling on what becomes, I don't want to say it's a downright spiral, because a lot of people, a lot of reviewers, critics, commenters, I mean, downward spiral how? Let's go ahead and let's define downward spiral. What I would say is, what occurs is somewhat of a natural progression of what happens when a mentally ill person who is trying to do the work, who is trying to deal with their condition, who is doing the best they can with what they have available at them at the time. When you constantly shit on that person, when you back that person into a corner, what do you think will eventually happen? When you pull the resources that he has available, when circumstances and happenstance occur, Arthur has to defend himself physically. What do you think is going to happen? We follow that up with him sort of discovering his own secret origin, right? And what do you think is going to happen from that? When his support systems, as I just mentioned, suddenly vanish, what do you think is going to happen to that? And the whole thing just pretty much leads up to, I won't say it's necessarily Arthur. I won't go as far as to say that it is him trying to rectify the wrongdoing that has been done to him. I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's what it is. And I won't go as far as to say it's him trying to correct what he perceives as an objective wrong. I won't go as far as to say it's that either. What I do think it is, however, is he has finally given himself permission to express some of the frustrations that he has been having throughout the course of the film. I think it's more of that. I think it's more of a liberation than it is a reckoning of anything. And essentially that's the film's synopsis in a nutshell. So real quick, let me jump on the writing. Let me jump on the plot. Let me jump on the dialogue, things of that nature. All right. So for the most part, like I said, writing wise, plot wise, the film's it's pretty by the letter. It's pretty by the book. The only subversion that I actually found in this film was that it didn't go as far as I thought it should have. It didn't. Contrary to all of the bogus marketing and bogus PR and bogus news and outrage, because, once again, we live in the PC world. We live in this outrage culture. Everybody got to be butthurt over something, right? Contrary to all of that going on before this movie's release, newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, the movie ain't that violent. It's not even close. I would even argue Pulp Fiction is more violent than this film. It's not that violent. It really isn't. It's not that violent. It's not that shocking. I wouldn't take a child to see this, but I would take a teenager, because it's not that bad. Everyone worrying about, there might be, shooting incidents and all this. No. Calm the fuck down. It's not that serious. It's not that serious. I'd be hard pressed to think of a single horror movie that we make nowadays that's less violent than this one. That's what I'm saying. If you've ever seen a Saw movie, it's more violent than this film. If you've ever seen a Hostel movie, it's more violent than this film. Most of Quentin Tarantino's films are more violent than this film. They try to market this as like the Taxi Driver of comic book films. Taxi Driver is more violent than this film. Goodfellas is more violent than this film. So no, calm the fuck down. It's not that serious. It's really not that serious. So I will say that my expectations were subverted there because it did not go as far as I thought it could have. And I would even argue it didn't go as far as maybe it should have. Then again, the fact that they also tried to market this as like this great character study, no, it's not. Not really. It's not really that. It's the story of a guy who gets shit on constantly, damn near daily in his everyday life. And then finally he decides to respond to that animosity in kind. And guess what? He doesn't even do it to the same level of what he's given. This dude gets his ass kicked a lot in this movie, and he does not respond with nearly the same amount of violence as what he's been dealt. Not specific incidents, the degree to which, yes. Overall, no. If you're talking about the micro, yes, he does. He does go a little bit overboard. If you're talking about the macro, not nearly as far as he could have. Not nearly as far as he could have. So that's why, so like I said, plot-wise, it's pretty standard. It's pretty by the book. I don't want to say, well, yeah, the movie was kind of predictable because I started predicting a lot of things like halfway through the movie. But like I said, they didn't go as far as I did. They kind of just stopped short. And that was more surprising than anything. That was probably the biggest surprise of the film. The third act of the film, this really minor spoiler, guys, really minor spoiler. For anybody who's familiar with The Dark Knight Returns, the third act of the film, there is a scenario in this movie very reminiscent to a scenario with the Joker in The Dark Knight Returns. And I thought that's where they were going to go with it. And they don't go that far. They don't take it that far. One step, but no, they don't go the whole way. And that was kind of surprising because you're talking about, arguably the most famous Batman comic book story of all time. And yeah, they don't go that far. They don't. So in that regard, the film was a little bit underwhelming. Briefly, I will touch upon the theme because here's the other thing too. Everybody tried, dude. If any of you all have been keeping up with the news and keeping up with like the media and the press going into this movie, it was so bogus. And I knew it was bogus. I didn't know to the degree it was bogus. And DC just let it ride. Warner Brothers just let it ride. Why? It was free publicity, right? They were kind of operating out of that notion that there's no such thing as bad PR because people are talking about our movie before it even came out. People tried to throw any political agenda you could think of. People tried to insert that into the movie, talking about like, because it's talking about this and it's talking about that. None of that shit is in this movie. The only societal theme that is in the movie is the notion of the haves and the have-nots. Dude, this movie is a period piece that takes place in the early 80s. That's history. That's not even political agenda or propaganda or statement or anything. That is history. Go back and look at the American economy in the early 80s. That's exactly what you had. You had economic distress. People were upset. You had the haves and the have-nots. Remember, this takes place in 1981. So what? This is 3 years before deregulation? Reagan had just gotten into office? Yeah, that's history, people. In terms of a social, political, economic climate, this is the same world as Watchmen, essentially, because that's what Alan Moore was writing about when he wrote Watchmen in this same time period. Same shit. Nothing we haven't seen before, okay? So no, everybody that's trying to attach all of this, 2019 political shit to it, stop. Just stop. Just stop. Okay. Now, that being said, did the movie do a good job at presenting those themes and carrying them through? Yeah. Yeah, sure. But once again, the marketing is misleading because I'll tell you this. for those of you all who have seen like the trailers and all this type of thing, and it's like, because people have kind of picked up as like, oh, it's like they're doing like this anarchist Joker. So they're kind of, homaging back to, Heath Ledger's Joker from The Dark Knight. Not as advertised. It's not as advertised. Yes, that's true, but not the way you think it's done based upon the trailers and the commercials. Not really. Not really. Like I said, a lot of what happens in this film, and it's one of the criticisms I have about it. A lot of what happens in this film is not through Arthur's actual involvement. He doesn't really exercise much agency in the film. Not really. Most of it is just shit that happens, and he just so happens to be there. I mean, that's kind of it. That's kind of it, Now, does that mean that the character wasn't well done because the writers did they rob him of his agency? Not really. Because really the film, I mean, what I think the film is trying to get across is what would happen. I think it's working out of this idea that the Joker did not create itself, that the world created the Joker. Because there's that old trope in a lot of Batman stories that Gotham itself is what's crazy, and that's what creates the crazy individuals and the crazy villains that Batman is up against. It's not so much that it's them as it is the city upon them, because that's sort of that theme when you start talking about Gotham City as a character in and of itself. This movie lends itself more to that idea than the notion that Arthur created the Joker. Arthur didn't really create the Joker. Actually, I would go as far as to say he doesn't create the Joker at all. But I'll get into a little bit more detail about that in my spoiler portion. All right. So I've already started talking about getting into the characters. I'll touch on Arthur a little bit more because he is a character. He is a character because by and large he's our window. Whether or not he is a reliable. You know what's funny about this? I find it odd. He doesn't narrate at all in the movie, and we don't really get inside his head until there's only a few scenes where we're actually inside his head, where we get to see what it is that he's thinking, because he doesn't tell us. He keeps a journal throughout the film. We don't get inside that journal, not really. Actually, I even think that in the movie they only ever really focus on like 2 pages from that journal, and we see the same page like 2 or 3 times. So we're not in the journal. He doesn't narrate. We don't really get into his head, with the exception of maybe 2 to 3 scenes. And you want to know what's funny about that? Based upon those scenes, you can't really tell me that Arthur is a homicidal maniac, because his delusions are actually very pleasant. He doesn't think of being violent. He doesn't think of being, of being vengeful. His delusions aren't ones of negativity. They're actually of positivity. They're nice things that he envisions. What I'll say is interesting about that is that, and this is reinforced by the dialogue that Arthur has in the 3rd act, when he finally does express his feelings overtly and verbally to other people. This movie does play off of that idea, and it's an old Joker idea. The notion that the Joker thinks that he's the one who's in his right mind and everyone else is crazy. To go back to that whole Heath Ledger performance from The Dark Knight. Remember that quote from The Dark Knight when Heath Ledger says, "You see, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve." They do play to that notion in this film. And I think that, granted, it's not said overtly. It's what we can pick up on based off of what Arthur says. Arthur thinks, once again, that Gotham itself is sick, that the city and the people in it are mentally ill. He knows he's mentally ill. He does. He knows that. He writes about it. He doesn't fool himself. He knows he's mentally ill. But by the time we get to that third act, he has now started taking on he started to take that perspective that I know I'm sick, but at least I'm treating myself. The rest of the world is out here. They're much sicker than I am, and they are not taking care of themselves. There is no treatment for what's going on out there. And that I do appreciate, because I think that was pretty well done. Especially with Arthur's character. So kudos to them for that. Let's see, real briefly, I'll mention some of the other characters, because you know what's funny about this? Because of this movie, because of Arthur, because of who he is, he's a very isolated character. So we spend most of the movie with him. Everyone else is a supporting character, but in snippets, man, they really, he's the star and everyone else is a supporting character. Which does kind of play into, his narrative of, him being a loner and being isolated, because those type of people, let's be real about this, they spend most of their time alone. Everyone that they encounter is pretty much a supporting character in their story. There are no co-stars, essentially, when you look at it from that perspective. But of them, Robert Downey Jr., I said Robert Downey Jr., my bad. Bobby D, Robert De Niro, Bobby D. I call him Bobby D. I don't know, that's just me. I call him Bobby D. That's my dog. But Robert De Niro, he does a really good job. I would probably say that, and real quick, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up the actress's name, because just that fast, it escaped me. Just that fast. Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? But so real quick, that is Frances Conroy, who plays Arthur's mother. Probably the second best performance in the film. She's really good. Granted, she is the character we spend the second most amount of time with, I think. But it's close though, because her and Bobby D have roughly around the same amount of screen time, but she is really good. She's extremely good in this. Yeah, see, someone mentioned Zazie Beetz. She does an okay job, but I mean, she's not given enough to do. And I would go as far as to say that with most of the supporting cast, because like I said at the beginning of this review, the supporting cast is full of a lot of character actors, and it's people you all know. Like, I mean, I'm gonna pull some names real quick, because you got my man Brett Cullen. I mean, he's been in multiple films throughout his career. Glenn Fleshler. This is my man from True Detective, from Billions. I mean, this dude, he's a great character actor. He's a phenomenal character actor. Bill Camp, Shea Wiggum. Oh, funny enough. So Fleshler and Wiggum, right? They were both in Boardwalk Empire. All right. So yeah, my man Wiggum from Boardwalk Empire. He's in Lords of Dogtown, really, really small role in that. He's another great actor. Oh, and then of course, Mark Maron. For any of you all who have seen his show on IFC, and he's a comedian. The dude has a career, I think, been over 20 years. He's been in a bunch of movies. So yeah, all of the supporting cast, like I said, great character actors, but they're just not given enough to do, honestly. And yeah, to respond to some of my one of my commenters, yeah, Beetz, she's wasted in this role. That could have been anybody. It didn't need to be her. She was wasted in this role. And that's the thing. I thought she would have a bigger part, but it is what it is. All right. So real quick, as we continue this non-spoiler portion, let me see. What do I want to talk? Okay. Let's talk about some visual stuff. The film is beautiful. I will give them that. The cinematography is really good. The the color that they use in the film, they were really smart and very intentional by their use of color in this film. I picked up on that. Especially, yeah, whenever the tone shifts in the film, that color comes into play and you recognize it. You feel it. You feel you're feeling the right way when we start kicking on the warm lights in the movie, when we switch over to the colder tones, the blues and the purples. It operates within the tone of the film, when we go from bit to bit, from piece to piece, from scene to scene throughout. And then, of course, the music adds a very big part in that as well. All of that works very well hand in hand. And I'll even touch on the music real quick. Score-wise is pretty good. The use... Hang on, though. But that bombastic score, that main theme from the trailer, that's inserted in some parts of the film where I'm like, am I supposed to be having a reaction to that? My timer just went off. Bear with me 1 second. 1 second. All right, I'm back. So yeah, with that main theme, with that bombastic theme, y'all know which one I'm talking about, that dun dun dun, that one, right? Okay, by and large, it is incorporated in the film in the manner in which you would expect. But there are some times when it's used where I'm like, really? Was that like a triumphant moment or something? Because I wasn't feeling it. It was weird. Some weird choices. But the more mellow themes, the real somber themes, those I think work the best in the film. Those are used very, very well. Very, very well. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and give you all my pretty much final overall thoughts for the non-spoiler portion. And in hindsight, the spoiler portion is going to be a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be, just because by and large, I got most of what I wanted to say out earlier in this review. But all in all, I would go as far as to say this. The film's fine for what it is. My main problem is the way in which it was marketed. Like I said, they tried to market this like the Taxi Driver of comic book films, and it's not that. It's not that at all. It's not nearly that deep. I would even argue it doesn't even have that same level of introspection. It's not. I mean, dude, it's not Watchmen. I would argue Watchmen is a better film than this. Watchmen does everything that this film does better than this film does it. And also about that violent kick, Watchmen is way more violent than this movie. Way more violent than this movie. So that should give you some perspective on what we're talking about when we're actually talking about the violence that's depicted here. I would even probably, let me see. Is Fight Club more violent? Yeah, probably is. Fight Club is more violent. Which is kind of funny because while I was watching this movie, Fight Club was the main movie I kept thinking of watching this. Because I kept thinking to myself, because I'm like, I think they wanted this. The media likened it to Taxi Driver. No, I think it actually wants to be more like Fight Club. But Fight Club does everything that this movie, I think, is trying to do better than it actually does it. Because like I said, to draw parallels, to try and use an analogy, if Arthur is the main protagonist of Fight Club, his psychotic break, right, in Fight Club, that was more sudden. That made more sense. And then after the twist was explained much better, we saw the progression of how he got to that place and the manner in which he responds to the things that are bothering him as his persona of Tyler Durden seems much more natural. Fight Club makes more sense. Joker, not so much. Not so much. But like I said, Joker never really goes to that place. If you think you're going to get comic book Joker in this movie, you're not going to get that. That's not what this is. He's not comic book Joker. He's not Nicholson's Joker. He's not Fletcher's Joker. He's not Romero's Joker. He's not Hamill's Joker. Damn sure ain't Leto Joker. I will say this. It's better than Leto Joker. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, that bar is really low. It's much better than Leto's Joker. And unfortunately, you know, the thing about that is Joaquin Phoenix is great in this role, but he also played, he did what I thought he was. I mean, he was who I thought he was. He did what I thought he would do. I would say that the only thing that I think sort of, how do I put this? He's limited by the material he has to work with. This is one of those performances where I kind of wish they would have let him off the leash. Let Joaquin do him. Because he does this material very well. Given better material, he would have been excellent. He would have been excellent. But I have heard some people say this is the best Joker ever. Really? Really? Could have been, but it isn't. It isn't. So yeah, where would I put this? What would I rank? Like I said, decent film. Gravely over marketed, it's overhyped. The film is very much overhyped. Yes, it is. Gravely overhyped. But it's not bad. It's not bad. It's better than BVS. Once again, that bar is very low. I would argue it's better than Suicide Squad, though I haven't even watched that entire film from start to finish. But yeah, I mean, it's a fine film. If I had to rate it on a 4-star scale, 4 being an A, 3 being a B, 2 being a C, 1 being a D, and 0 stars being an F, it is a 2.5. It's a C+. Not quite a B-, but it's a C+. It's better than average, but not above average. All right. So now, quite briefly, we are going to go ahead and we are going to change up hang on a sec. Why did that do that? Alrighty, so we are going to go ahead and we are going to post that. And we are going to let's go ahead and change it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, spoiler time. Spoiler time. All right, let's talk about some spoilers. As I mentioned earlier in this review, the one thing that really let me down about this movie is it didn't go as far as it could have. And it could have gone very, very far. Joker only kills 6 people in this movie. That's pretty disappointing, actually. He only kills 6 people in this movie. And honestly, I would probably say, well, the first 3, for those of you all who have seen the movie, we already know the first 3, they kind of had it coming because they started with him, right? I could make the argument that his mother had it coming. But then again, I mean, she was already on her last leg anyway, so that was more sort of like putting the dog down, right? I mean, and you know what's funny about this? That is the only kill that I thought was actually sort of like him, like it was vengeful, right? It was him getting revenge on someone. That's the only one I thought that was like that, because the first 3 in the subway, that was self-defense. The coworker, okay, yeah, he kind of went overboard on that one. I don't think he needed to kill that guy. And then, of course, with Murphy at the end, with Bobby D's character, that was just lashing out. That's what that was. But his mom was the only one that I felt like was him actually like trying to rectify the wrongdoing that was done to him. That's the only one I felt that was actually like that. Because let's be real about this. His coworker, yeah, the guy wasn't necessarily the nicest person on earth, but he wasn't a piece of shit. He really wasn't. He went to visit him when he heard that his mom was in the hospital. I mean, come on, dude. Let's be real about that. Now, you can argue that the dude never really liked him and he was only pretending. Okay, fine, sure. But I don't think that that warranted him killing that dude, especially in the manner in which he did it. So, yeah. If any of those seem like him actually being crazy, it's the coworker. Murphy was a cry for help, honestly. That was just him lashing out. Or Murray, I'm sorry. Murray was just a cry for help, him lashing out. And then the first three, self-defense. The mom was the only one that actually felt like him doing something, you know? But honestly and truly, I had a lot of issues with this film. I really did. I had a lot of issues with it. I don't like, once again, I see what the film was trying to do in terms of depicting the world that Arthur lived in as being very apathetic. No one really gives a shit about anybody else. And that is sort of the inspiration behind like the riots and everything going on. I get that. And I also get the role, because essentially, like I said, this movie isn't so much a character study as it is a social experiment, right? What would happen if a mentally ill person found themselves in that type of environment, right? But it doesn't actually go as far as it could. We don't see, like Arthur's not a fucking bad guy. He's not. He's not really a villain. He's not a villain. He's not diabolical. He's not an anarchist. Hell, he even said it in the film. I'm not a protester. I'm not political. I'm not trying to inspire anything. Like, is he narcissistic? Yes, he is. But look at who raised him. Is he out of touch with reality? Does he have difficulty socializing with people? Yes, he does. Despite his attempts to do so otherwise. The man is doing the work. But, I used this analogy when I was talking when I was talking with my homeboy B Rizzle last night. Shout out to him. Essentially, this film just shows you what happens when, dude, it's like dealing with a caged animal, right? You fuck with that animal long enough, he will go feral. And Arthur doesn't really go full-blown feral. He, to use an analogy, right? He's a tiger in a cage that you fuck with day in and day out. And all he did was slash you across the face, but he didn't eat you. He could have ate your ass. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Once again, different type of Joker. Different type of Joker. This once again, this is not a Joker that we've seen before. And that's what brings me to that whole thing I said earlier about the Dark Knight Returns. For those of you all who have read or seen the animated adaptation with the talk show, y'all remember how that happened in that one, right? And that's what I thought they were going to do. Because I'm like, oh my God, he's going to kill everyone in that studio. He doesn't even do that. Murray's the only one he kills. And I read something funny this morning. So apparently the last scene in the movie is supposed to suggest that what happened in the third act didn't actually happen, that he never really killed anybody. No. If that was the intent, that went totally over my head because I didn't take that away from the film. I didn't take that away as being an ambiguous ending. No, I didn't buy that at all. Kind of took that as, well, Arthur found himself in Arkham. Because that's kind of what would happen if he was to do something like that. So whether it was real or not didn't matter. The result was still the same. He's back. He's back in Arkham. Well, he wasn't in Arkham to begin with, because remember, when he goes to Arkham the first time, that's his first time there. So it's now he's in Arkham. But yeah. All right, let me see. I mean, honestly and truly, that was the main thing I wanted to talk about in the spoiler portion, was that third act and how I because once again, in the non-spoiler portion, I didn't want to tell people what happened, in case, but yeah, I didn't think they took that the way as far as they could have. I honestly don't think they took Arthur's character as far as they could have. But like I said, I understand what they were doing. I just thought they could have done it better. Okay, so with that being said, because I gotta, I'm coming up on 45 minutes here, and I don't want to make this one too long. So last 5 minutes, I'm gonna go ahead, go through some of these comments, answer some of you guys' questions. So if you have any questions, and if you have any questions pertaining to the film, please leave those, drop those, but for if you have any questions that don't have to deal with the film, that's fine too. I'll go ahead and answer those. But once again, Super Chat has top priority. So, and I'm actually going ahead and I don't know if there are any Super Chats. I am using StreamYard again. I don't know if StreamYard specifies which ones are Super Chats, but in the event that anybody does, go ahead and give me a Super Chat, and I don't get to it. Apologies in advance, but I'm checking YouTube now and it doesn't look like we have any Super Chats. All right, so for the next 5 minutes or so, I'll go ahead and I'll check out some of these comments and some of these questions. Let's see. East Blue Drew, yo, I really did want your take on this movie. I didn't think you would be on the same page as me, but I was curious about how well, yeah, I mean, hope everything is well. Yeah, appreciate that, East Blue Drew. But yeah, nah, man. Yeah, I didn't really particularly care for the movie. I'll be honest with you, I didn't. I don't think it was bad. I'm not going to say it was a bad movie. It's not, because like I said, I mean, BVS, Suicide Squad, we know how low this bar can get, right? It's not nearly as bad as any one of those. But that's my take, right? I went with my brother-in-law. He hated the movie. He utterly hated it. He hated it with a passion. And I'm like, whoa, it wasn't that bad. I didn't dislike it that much. But it certainly wasn't what I thought it would. You know what's funny about that? The movie was what I thought it would be before the trailer came out. When we first started hearing about it, it's what I originally thought it was going to be. Not what I thought it was going to be after seeing like the trailer and commercials and stuff. So maybe that's why I wasn't as disappointed, because it was kind of what I figured it would be in the first place. Would you agree this is an Oscar bait film? No, I don't. I don't think it is. People are talking about like Joaquin should be nominated for an Oscar for this performance. Really? Really? But this performance? I don't know about that. I guess it depends on who else is nominated. Depending on who else is nominated this year, okay, maybe. But really? Or I'll put it like my man Cam Jordan. Really? I had one of my friends on Facebook said it was one of the greatest films she had ever seen. My immediate response was, really? One of the greatest? I'm like, baby girl, you haven't seen a lot of movies. In my opinion, they should have called this film Arthur. Yeah, that's true, because me and my man B Rizzle was talking about this last night. This didn't need to be a Joker film. It really didn't. It didn't need to be a Joker film. They should have went the whole Dark Knight Returns with that scene. Yeah, I think so too. He hasn't done anything Joker crazy level, kind of underwhelming climax. Yep, Sure. What's up, USK Knight? They should use this Joker in Suicide Squad. Well, it's not tied to anything else, so I don't know why they would. I wouldn't want to see this Joker again. Personally, I wouldn't. Let's see. People do realize this movie was focused on Joker, right? Not the other characters mainly. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. How did they pull off the feel of Gotham as a city? Honestly, dude, Gotham was no different than 1980s New York. I mean, that's why I said, like, other than names, there was nothing really authentically Batman in this movie other than the names. That's it. And we already know that Gotham City is named Gotham City in the comics because Gotham is a nickname for New York City, because Gotham is supposed to be New York City in the comics. So I mean, dude, it's New York. It's New York. I don't even know where they shot this movie. I couldn't even figure that out. Part of me thought it was Chicago, but I wasn't entirely sure. Part of me thought it was Philly, because there were some parts of the city. I was like, is that Philly? It looks like Philly. It looks like Philly. But I mean, like, you couldn't even really get a feel of the city. Yeah, you couldn't even get a feel of the city as its own. I mean, like I said, I couldn't even figure out what city we were in, dude. You know, watching The Dark Knight, you know that's Chicago, right? And it has that feel, and it contributes to that feel of like what a real world Gotham would kind of be like, right? Like, so essentially, like with The Dark Knight, they turned Chicago into Gotham. And it was the same thing in The Dark Knight Rises. Like, they turned Pittsburgh into Gotham. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't even know where we were in this movie. It's only Gotham by name. I'm gonna put it to you like that. It's only Gotham by name. You remove the name, and it's any other major metropolitan city in 1981. Do you think the director's comments on the movie and the comedy genre, and what do you think of the director's comments on the movie and the comedy genre, and how do you feel about the term woke? I don't know what Todd Phillips was talking about. I don't know what he was talking about, because what he said the movie wasn't actually what it was. And honestly, dude, I think that was just him. I don't want to say he was trolling, but I think he was sort of just feeding. Let me put it to you like this. He was not trolling, but I think he was feeding the trolls. I think that's what he was doing. I think he was just feeding the press information to keep the movie topical. But I don't know what all he said. I kind of just read the headlines on his response. But remember who he was responding to, man. He wasn't even responding to critics. He was responding to the news outlets. But like his sentiment about like kind of being sick and tired of the quote unquote, you know what? Like I said, because I think he was feeding the trolls, I can't even take what he said to heart, because I don't even think he was entirely sincere about what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? I think he was just feeding the trolls. Let's see. Are you giving credit to Zack Snyder's Watchmen? I've always given credit to Zack Snyder's Watchmen. Come on, Powers. You've been here long enough. You know I've always given Zack Snyder credit to Watchmen. There's nothing wrong. Let me see. Snyder may be bad on his own. Translate pre-existing. Yeah. Whoa. Yes. Random Black Gamer is right on that. So long as Snyder is doing a direct adaptation, he's pretty good. When he starts taking creative liberties, though, No, he's not. No, he's not. No. Fear or hate? I can't even, because it's not the Joker. It's not the Joker. I can't, dude. I can't even. I cannot, in good consciousness, honestly compare Phoenix's Joker to any other Joker, because it's not the same Joker, and it's not even trying to be the same. It's not even the same type of Joker. You know what I mean? Let's see. Random Black Gainer. I kind of hate that. I kind of hate that this film is going to cement this movie as his true origin story to the general audience. That's possible. That you know what? I would have said no, it's not. But I know somebody who thought that the Joker still killed Bruce's parents based off of '89, and that was 30 years ago. So yes, it's possible that is the case. Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, fear or hate, you're right. Yeah, that is true. But that's not, but you don't kill somebody over that. Come on, man. Let's see. You know what, Cyborg Man? I agree with that comment. Yeah. I think this film was supposed to be something. It does feel like this movie was supposed to be something entirely different, and they decided to make it a Joker film, but it was supposed to be something totally different. You're right about that. Because remember, see, and I caught on to that too, because you know what gave that away? If y'all stuck around throughout the credits, did you notice that when they said based on the characters, based on the characters inspired from, all they had was just DC. They removed comics, and it wasn't even, I don't even think it was the DC logo. It just said DC. When I saw that, that's when it reminded me. I'm like, dude, I had to remind myself, this film was in production before Aquaman came out. This film was in production. This was the first film. This was the first film to enter production after Justice League. Because remember, Aquaman was in production. I believe, if memory serves, Aquaman was in production the same time Justice League was. And so this was the first film to enter production right after Justice League, but before Aquaman's release. This was before Aquaman became the highest grossing DC Comics film. So at that point in time, they were trying to make this film something totally different. Don't connect it to anything DC at all. But after Aquaman's success, when the film is in post-production by this time, because remember, this film was in production. They shot this film last fall. Aquaman didn't come out until December. So it wasn't until post-production that I think they sort of ramped up the Joker-esque of it. But this was supposed to be something totally different. You're right about that. Why add the Batman stuff if this movie is a standalone seems unnecessary to me, because it was done after the fact, as I just mentioned. Yeah. Would you think Joaquin, if he played a more traditional type of Joker? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I hate to keep saying this. I hate to keep saying this because people don't like to talk about it in this light. And once again, all due respect to Heath Ledger, this is not a knock on Heath Ledger. People want Heath Ledger's Joker to remain with Ledger. They want him to take that to the grave, and they don't want to see anybody else do a sort of rendition of that character. Dude, I've said it numerous times. Jared Leto could have done Ledger's Joker. Joaquin Phoenix could have done Ledger's Joker. He could have done a young Nicholson's Joker. He could have done any Joker you would have given him, which is why I said he does a good job at this one. I just don't think that this is a necessarily good Joker. It's not it's not Joaquin's fault. It's the material. He does the best with the material. If he was given better material, he would have done even better. What do you think of how Thomas Wayne was portrayed? He's a rich white man in the early 80s. That's it. He's a rich white man in the early 80s. That's kind of how they were. Oh, what's up? What's up, the fine and gentlemen? You're one that loved Joker. Okay. So you're on that side of the aisle. I'm on the other side, man. I'm on the other side over in the back, trying to find some Micanites. What's the deal with the super rats? That's a New York thing, dude. It's right up there with the alligators in the sewers. Do you feel the writers were afraid to go that far due to society nowadays? Maybe. So they shot it in Chicago, New York, and New Jersey. Okay. Yeah. It looks more Jersey than New York. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see that. I can see that now. Yeah, it does look more Jersey than New York. It does. Yeah. All right. Oh, Carlos in the house. What's happening, man? What is your Joker type? Jester, clown, or nihilist anarchist? My favorite Joker type is neither. My favorite Joker type is hood Joker, gangster Joker. What Nicholson's Joker was sort of. That's my favorite Joker. My favorite Joker is mobster Joker. That's my favorite one. My favorite one is the one that comes in with the big rim hat and the long trench coat. That's my favorite Joker. Is mobster Joker. The Joker that'll pull out a Swiss blade on you. That's my favorite Joker. Yeah. That's my favorite one. He'll pull out the knife, carve the face. That's my favorite Joker. Yeah. Y'all just trolling now, bro. All right. Oh man, I haven't even reached the end of these. All right, y'all. Look, guys. We go. All right. I gotta hurry up through these comments, y'all. Y'all gotta bear with me, man. Y'all get it. The comments are still coming. I tell you what, guys. I gotta go ahead and okay. Last one. I gotta do it, guys. I'm sorry. Last one. We can't have this one go on forever. Last one. No, Jamal, I'm not answering any more of your questions. You got my cell. You conscious. Okay. Since the movie is currently doing well in the box office, do you think Warner Brothers is gonna try to do this style of movie with other DC comics or villains, for example, Lex Luthor? So the rumor was that this movie was supposed to kick off like a new label of DC live action films, because I think it was supposed to, is it so you know how they just started the Black Label in the comics? This was supposed to, what was it supposed to be called? It was supposed to be kind of like the Vertical for the DC live action movies. That's what this movie was supposed to kickstart. And I think somewhere doing post-production, they decided, is it DC Black? Because DC Black is the name of the comics label. Is it the same thing for the movie? Sam, is it the same thing for the movie? Let me know. Because I thought that was only for the comics. But essentially, this was going to be sort of like their adult label, their dark label. That's what Todd Phillips said. Okay, so Black. The Black Label was supposed to be the film one. Okay, so yeah, it was supposed to kickstart like that new like label of movies. But I heard that halfway through post-production, they scrapped it. So I don't know. They scrapped it. It's very likely that they may do more of these, but not under a banner, because if you've noticed, all of the DC movies, like the DCEU is dead. The DCEU is dead. Every movie from here on out is going to have like its own continuity, but they're not necessarily going to be a shared continuity, or it's going to be a very loose continuity. But they're not doing the Marvel thing anymore. Like that died. That died with Justice League. So because if you notice, Aquaman barely mentions anything from any of the previous films. They only mention what happens in Justice League, I think twice. Yeah. So and then I don't think Wonder Woman 1984 is going to have anything to do with anything else other than the first Wonder Woman film. So and from what I like, Shazam very loosely tied in. So yeah, so Birds of Prey essentially is the Suicide Squad sequel. But like I said, so the Suicide Squad has its own continuity now. You see what I'm saying? That's its own thing now. And no, we don't want to see the Snyder Cut. So that's going to go ahead. That's going to wrap up my Joker review for tonight. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. Please, in the comments, continue the discussion because we got some really good comments. I want to thank all you all watching live. Thank everybody for tuning in after the fact. And once again, a huge shout out to Kelly Madden for requesting this film via Patreon. And if you all have a movie, TV show, anime, comic, manga, anything of that nature, if you have a topic you want to see me discuss on Discussion of the Week, if you all want to go ahead and book a live stream session for Advice Corner, anything like that, any request whatsoever, go ahead and hit up the OAW Patreon page at patreon.com/OAW. Check out the tiers. I know that there's still one spot available for the movie, TV show, and anime tier, which is the blockbuster tier. That's the $30 tier. There's one spot available still for that. But like I said, if I get enough requests, if I'm able to fit them in, I could open it up to allow more people. But we'll just have to see. Because as it stands right now, I just got done doing the slate for this month's videos, and I'm booked. I'm totally booked. But I do have, Carlos, man, dude, I didn't get a chance to tell you. Carlos, dude, if you're still watching, your suggestion for a video that was supposed to be last month, I went ahead and I waited until this month because October is Halloween, baby. Supernatural themed here on OAW, and your request fit in very, very nicely. So, but Carlos, dude, I'm gonna do you one better. I'll just go ahead and I'll announce this now so everyone can know, because it's actually going to be the next video. I am going to be doing 4 special anime videos for October for Halloween, because Carlos' request was to do sort of like a, so many years late, a revisiting, if you will, of Yu Yu Hakusho. So I won't do a full-blown Yu Yu Hakusho review, but I will be doing a discussion video pretty much discussing the series, pretty much kind of like my DBZ No Longer Holds Up video, kind of like that, where I go back and I discuss the anime these many years later. That's going to be actually tomorrow night. That's going to be 9:00 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow night, right? But then after that, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do a live commentary of the Yu Yu Hakusho OVAs. I'm going to do a review of those OVAs, an official review of the OVAs. And then the last week of October, I will finally do the long-awaited and anticipated Hunter x Hunter 2011 anime review, the full series review. That's finally going to happen. All right. So that's something extra I'm doing for October since it's Halloween. The other thing I'm going to do, keep an eye out because it's kicking off this week as well. Batman Telltale Let's Plays over on Twitch, streaming live over on the Twitch channel, and then it'll be uploaded on the OAW YouTube channel. It's going to be 4 sessions of those. Everyone after that, I think we're going to see what happens. There's a very good chance after those first 4 initial, everyone after that is going to be on Patreon. But that kicks off this month as well. Stay posted on all of those. And then, of course, I also have some other movie reviews that I'll be doing weekly as well. We got to get back on schedule with the weekly live stream. So with that being said, this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off. And until next time, peace.